All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us for the ASAP Service Reimagined webinar. My name is Julie Howder with ASAP. We are very excited to share with all of you the exciting details on how ASAP is offering 2 new solutions in the digital alarm dispatch. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the Q&A section. We'll do our best to answer all these questions. However, if we are not able to get to all of them, we will send out a follow-up email to everyone after the webinar. And as a reminder, once the webinar concludes, we will offer an on-demand video of this webinar as well as a PDF of the presentation that you're going to be seeing. At this time, I'd like to introduce you to Karen Carlson, our Vice President and General Manager of ASAP Service. Karen, the floor is yours.
Great. Thanks, Julie. Good day, everyone, and thank you for joining. As Julie stated, I'm the Vice President and General Manager of ASAP Service. I've been in leadership roles in public safety and technology, software, and integration for more than 30 years. I know it's hard to tell. Specializing in deploying critical automated systems to enhance telecommunicator and emergency response efficiencies. So aligning cross-functional teams and operations and development teams to drive process improvements is critical to every aspect of what I've done for the last 30 plus years, especially having been in public safety for 14 of those and fulfilling them. So my leadership roles in public safety communications and operations, combined with deep industry knowledge that I've gained through all of my private sector roles as well, really kind of fuels my passion and my commitment to advancing services and solutions for public safety. So enough about me. Let's jump into ASAP. So some of you may have heard about ASAP before, and some of you may not have. So for those of you that have, please bear with me as I go through a little bit of an overview of what ASAP is. So for those of you in the public safety emergency response space, think about what it would be like to improve their outcomes by giving emergency responders a minimum of 2 minutes earlier every time. Now, this is specifically around alarms, but that's why ASAP was created, basically to improve those outcomes, improve your response outcomes by getting your responders there faster. So another part of that is around looking at the challenges that have been faced by ECCs. I'm not going to tell you anything that you don't already know on this slide. Your staff is overwhelmed. There is a ton of manual workload that they have to do. Because there's a lot of manual workload and a lot of manual steps that they have to do, it's an error-prone process. So obviously, digitizing, making this more streamlined is definitely a value to addressing this challenge. Back to the staffing being overwhelmed. They're overwhelmed also because you're short-staffed. You have limited resources, not only on the floor to answer those phone calls, but also in the field responding to incidents. And you have a gazillion cost constraints. We all know that your budget primarily goes to staffing and human budget. So you've got those cost constraints that you deal with as well. In regard to all of these things above, some stats that you may or may not know is that 77% of ACCs across the US are below staffing level. Of those that are understaffed, the understaffed average is upwards of 32%. And because of that overwhelm that they have and the kind of traumas that they deal with day in and day out, their staff is 25 to 44% experiencing PTSD, a lot of times going unnoticed as well. So we've got one ECC that's been part of the platform forever, and that's Broome County, New York. That statistic that you saw on that last screen is showing that a few years back, they've already been experiencing 20 hours plus savings per month on phone calls. Phone calls that would normally have had to be answered when reporting alarms that now are being received digitally into the center. That's actually on the low end compared to many of our other live ECCs. So just to kind of give you an overview of what that experience looks like today, today's alarm dispatch is both manual and costly in more than just dollars. and costly in some of the things that we just talked about. On this screen, there's a big box in the middle. That's really the area where alarm reporting comes into play. Most alarms are coming into your centers on a 10-digit administrative line. We all know what comes first. 911 comes first. So if a 911 calls are coming in and ringing off the hook, that alarm call on the admin line is going to wait. So that's one area where the delays can come in. It's also a verbal translation, right? So somebody on the phone telling you what the address is, what the location in the building is, what the type of alarm is, all of those things. And your folks are having to say, what's that spelling? What is that zone again? All of those kind of repeat things. So it's a process that's naturally or natively prone to errors because of that translation or basically manually entering the information into your computer-aided dispatch system. An alarm is never a one and done. When I say that is you have that first alarm, that first phone call reporting that alarm. You may have an update to that alarm. You may have a cancellation to that alarm. You may have repeated escalations of that alarm. So anywhere from 1 to 5 phone calls is what most ECCs are experiencing when an alarm is reported to you. And that's a ringing phone for every one of those. And that I've already talked about, the increased time because of that administrative line being the last thing to get answered in the center. So all of these things are why this process is slow, time consuming, and costly. That ringing phone basically, statistically shows that ringing phone causes that increased stress level for your staff. The other thing with this process, because they're verbally relaying information to you, they're not able to tell you, hey, I've got to, or translate to you a video, a photo, a WAV file or an audio file, a PDF of the building pre-plan or emergency response plan. All of those things are things that they can't send to you across the phone line. So these are other issues that cause delays and inefficiency in the response. So a little bit more about what automated secure alarm protocol is. ASAP is a two-way bidirectional communication platform that allows you to receive alarms digitally and receiving them digitally directly into your CAD system. Think about it this way. It's like a CAD to CAD interface. When the only difference is that instead of one end of the interface being a CAD system, it's now an alarm monitoring center system or software. So we're basically sending information back and forth on that CAD to CAD type interface. This service, ASAP service, was developed by public safety and by the alarm monitoring industry. Both of your industries really experience the same challenges that we talked about earlier, right? Those exact same challenges are experienced on the alarm monitoring side as they are on the public safety side. So this is why in 2011, these industries got together and developed this platform. The ASAP service is owned by the Monitoring Association. The Monitoring Association is a not-for-profit association of the alarm industry, but they feel so strongly about being able to get the alarms and service their clients, your citizens, more efficiently, that's why they've moved forward with building this service. Again, this service was built back in 2011, and not a single ECC has chosen to leave the platform since they joined the platform. What they have done is they've continued to expand and get more alarm companies bringing alarms into their center since the day that they went on. So within TMA, 80% of the alarm systems in the US are monitored by an alarm company that is part of TMA and part of the ASAP service. Today, we have more than 150 ECCs that are part of the platform and serving more than 60 million people or population in the US. And I really talked about that 2+ minutes. We've had some agencies say that they believe it's higher to more like eight minutes that they've been saving, but the average is around 2 minutes. That's a big reduction in response time when life is hanging in the limb for any of these alarms. So I did mention earlier, what is it, what did it look like before ASAP? This is what it looks like with ASAP. Basically, that big orange box in the middle is now kind of replaced, and you've got that straight transmission from the alarm monitoring center staff into your computer-aided dispatch system. And that's where we're reducing that time. We're reducing that response time in the amount of time that they have to make that phone call, you answer that phone call, and your operators enter it in. There's no more manual intervention required to enter an alarm. All of the alarm information gets digitally sent into your computer-aided dispatch system. And like I mentioned earlier, there are things that they just can't verbally transmit to you. Now you're getting that right into your computer-aided dispatch system. And once it's there and that incident is created, you can dispatch or your staff can dispatch the correct units for that incident based on that information you have on the alarm. When we set up this CAD to CAD, and that's this interface between ASAP, it is similar than as a CAD to CAD, right? You're using addresses that are like in the same system so that when your computer-aided dispatch system gets that information, it can create that incident without having to bypass the address and create that incident. You're ready to go, and you can dispatch those units to respond. It also, like I mentioned earlier, it's eliminating that transcription errors that can happen by what was the spelling of that name? What was the spelling of that street? Where is zone 70, right? And I've had one supervisor say to me, you mean I don't have to say I'm operator 521 10 times a day anymore? And that answer is yes. You don't have to transmit your operator number anymore because CAD's providing that information back to the monitoring center. Additionally, like I mentioned earlier, ASAP is the only standards-based protocol. Even though we're going to talk about new enhancements today and things that we've just launched that are super exciting, it's still based on these two standards. It's based on what the Monitoring Association and APCO International collectively worked on to create that electronic data transmission. It's an ANSI standard. The numbers are there, not that it really matters a whole lot, but it's based on a standard. So critical that in technology today that we base what we're doing on standards. The other thing that they've built into the overall standard is what we call AVS-01. AVS-01 is a criteria for basically ensuring that alarm monitoring centers are UL certified and that their operators are taking that extra step to analyze the alarm before they send it to the ECC that needs to respond. This is only for security or law enforcement alarms, but it's basically allows them to assess it in a standard way and making sure that your operators are getting that severity level in. So think about it this way. AVS-01, very comparable to your I3 standards that are written and created for your 911 telephony equipment, or P25, a standard that's been created in order to standardize your radio communication systems. So that's basically what it is, and it's creating that standard and that uniform approach to how alarms are handled. Next, I'm going to just briefly highlight a little bit more about AVS-01. I am definitely not going to read all of these words on the screen, and I don't even know that you can read them on the screen because some of them are kind of small. But think about it this way. They're looking at the alarm information as it comes in. They're looking at the video. They're looking at the audio. They're looking for specific things, right? They are trained on what to look for in the video, the photos, the audio that they're receiving to determine things about human presence and human threat to life. So if they don't do any assessment, right, they see no information, that's a no dispatch, that's a level 0, you never get those. Then as you move up, they determine the different severity levels, all the way up to there's a threat to life. When you get that alarm across the ASAP platform, your operator is getting those different assessments so they can upgrade the response, whether it's a law enforcement response or a fire response, that in addition that they're dispatching, they can upgrade the response, kind of like if you get a structure fire, right, and someone reports more information, you increase the alarm level of that structure fire. Similar in nature to that, and you're getting this additional information so that your operators are making better response decisions to get the right people there at the right time. So that's really what ABS 01 is about. And they are also expanding their standards so that they can get to non-law enforcement. So they'll be doing the similar things for fire and panic alarms and other types of alarms in their next version as well. And we'll be incorporating that into the ASAP standard as it's made available. All right. Now we're going to get to the super exciting stuff for today. At least it excites me. So the future is here. ASAP service, the future of ASAP service is here. We have been contracted and working with the Monitoring Association to refresh the ASAP, we call it a message broker, in the AWS GovCloud. So ASAP service has always been secure, which is, one of the foundations of where it existed before and where it was hosted before. But now it's available with cloud security, and it's available with cloud hosted interconnectivity between those monitoring centers and your ECC. When we launch this, it may not seem that exciting, but it really opens up a lot of options and a lot more flexibility for you. We're now offering a new scalable API-based integration. It's tailored so that it's built once by the CAD vendor, and it just is a matter of redeploying it over and over again instead of having a unique customized connection state by state. So it is again, standard API, REST and or webhook, whatever your CAD vendor chooses to do. But again, standard. So this is based on that standardization of this API. It streamlines the integration and streamlines the ability to do that bi-directional data exchange, right? Fewer hops to get through, fewer endpoints to get to, really streamlining that complete workflow from end to end of the alarm monitoring, sending your ECC, the digital alarm information, and in reverse, right? So that bi-directional. The next one's a really big key and something that our 150 plus ECCs that are live are not getting yet today. And that's the key, yet today. We're going to be able to include rich data, audio files, or video URLs, PDFs, photos. They may be able to capture still photos and send those along, those attachments along. That information it will be able to be sent along to you. If you don't get it on first send, because now this is a fully bi-directional interface that can support this rich data, your operator can say, do you have this available? Can you send? Can you attach? And they will be able to send that back. So this is all a digital transaction, and they can now expand their alarm transmissions to include this additional data. The next one is really key. This supports all emergency dispatch centers. Police dispatch centers, police ECCs, fire dispatch centers, EMS, and even private security response centers. This, because we're now up in the AWS GovCloud and we can be able to do that direct connect, we're able to expand our ability to provide service, ASAP service to all centers of all types. And lastly, we still give you an option. You have your preferred choice of connectivity, we can support that. If your preferred choice of connectivity is through the existing law enforcement network, you can continue to do that, and we can support that. If you and your CAD vendor come to an agreement and you want to do that direct connect, you can do that. So we're offering you much more flexibility and much more choice in what we're doing. All right. Why AWS GovCloud? I think the big thing is GovCloud, right? Going into the GovCloud gives us that enhanced security that you expect in your industry. It gives us that reliability or that redundancy so that there's failovers and there's less issues with when there's a blip in the network or the broker or wherever it is, right? So it gives you that additional liability and it's scalable, right? Cloud allows us to expand and contract as we need to, and expand that network connectivity. Excuse me, just a second. So it also allows us to do, an accelerated deployment. So we're able to reduce some of those barriers and reduce the amount of time that we need to deploy an ASAP interface to your CAD vendor. We still have a significant connection and communication with the CAD vendors, but we're able to reduce this down to approximately 3 to 4 months. Obviously, we continue to work with you and your CAD vendors, and there's those dependencies that we'll have and we'll work through with you, but we're able to significantly reduce the deployment times. We also have the flexibility that I talked about with that API integration. Again, standard API, standardized connectivity. This allows the CAD vendors for a faster, more configurable implementation rather than a customizable implementation. So really transforming emergency response. These are the reasons that we're empowering all of your agencies to be able to do secure, real-time alarm data delivery. That's really what's behind this move and this direction by the Monitoring Association. All right. In addition, so that platform that I just talked about, and all of those changes that the the ASAP hosted in GovCloud enables, it also has to deliver to you something called what we're calling ASAP View. ASAP View is a web-based alternative to CAD integrated ASAP. Basically, what that means is, instead of, this is where your operators would have some manual entry, but you're entering it manually from what you're seeing on a screen. Manual entry can also be a copy and paste. If your IT team and your CAD vendor is okay with you running this web browser on your CAD workstation, you can copy and paste from ASAP View into CAD. So the other thing is, it provides immediate value. So if you don't have, let's say you're going through some CAD transitions, upgrade, infrastructure issues, any of those things that might be associated with a reason that you can't move forward with CAD today, you can move forward with ASAP View and then plan for the full CAD integration. These are things that we can work on together with you and review that, because it's minimal effort to start receiving the value of those alarms digitally. When we're looking at ASAP View, we're looking at implementing this as little as 4 weeks, and sometimes could have even potentially be less, because we don't have a significant amount of configuration and setup work and address verification. Yeah, so there's a message in the chat. I'm sorry, in the Q&A right now. If you don't mind, I'm going to hold that one until the end, and then we can read that one and I can readdress that one. So what does it look like with alarm dispatch with ASAP View? A lot of the things on the front end look very differently than once you get into the middle, where that orange box was and what we're reducing it down to. Now, instead of that orange box where the Alarm Monitoring Center is calling the ECC, the alarm information is getting sent into that secure web portal, and then your telecommunicator views it and enters it into their computer-aided dispatch system. They can also use that portal to respond back to them and ask for further clarification, update them on dispatch units and things like that. So that is basically, this is what that world looks like today with ASAP View and where that changes. You're still eliminating the 10-digit admin calls from the monitoring centers in your area. You are also cutting that alarm processing time, because you can have a different operator viewing what's coming in and entering it into CAD and getting it in by a custom cut and paste. you're also reducing those voice or verbal translation errors. Again, reducing that ringing phone call. And that is really the resounding thing that we hear from our live ECCs, is that reducing the ringing phone call has been just a major, major benefit for their operators. It's still based on the standards, the ASAP standards that I have already talked about, right? It's built on the ANSI standards, and it's still utilizing AVS01. So those are things that we're reducing. It's everything, reduced setup and very fast time to value for ASAP View. All right, so hopefully you're a little jazzed up right now, but you might be thinking to yourself, okay, thanks, Karen. You've given me more to think about, but now I don't know how to decide. There's a really quick grid here that I'm going to step through, and these are your two options. We really consider CAD integrated ASAP as the gold standard, but we totally understand that there may be reasons that you can't get to CAD integrated right away. But while you're thinking about your options, think about it this way. Do I have the budget and they built the infrastructure in order to move forward with integrating ASAP with CAD? That's question number one. If that answer is yes, then you take a look at it. Do I want to connect to ASAP via Endlets, or do I want to do a direct API? Then look at the API or the implementation timeline. Do I have 3 to 4 months to basically move forward? That's basically what we're working towards with your CAD vendors in order to hit that 3 to 4 month timeline. I'm going to switch over to address validation for a second. With CAD integrated ASAP, even with the new platform, because this is a CAD to CAD interface, we do still need to do address verification. So there's an address verification process that needs to happen that our implementation team facilitates. In both scenarios here, there's going to be a one-time implementation fee. Because it's more labor intensive to do CAD integration, that one's a tad higher than ASAP View, but it's a one-time fee. It's a one-time fee for us. Once the ASAP implementation fees are paid and you are live, there is no additional fees that are assessed by TMA or ASAP to the ECCs. So now we look at ASAP View. It's a secure web-based solution. So you've got security handled. It's a web portal. So, you look at how that is in your workflow. It's still hosted on with the ASAP broker that's in the Amazon Web Services or GovCloud. So it's same solution, but minimal front end and minimal integration. Because there's minimal integration, the implementation timeline basically is 2 to 4 weeks versus the 3 to 4 months. All right. Again, still one-time implementation fee. The one other thing that's different here is there's no address verification, because there's nothing on the other end that needs to say you need this address in order to do something with the alarm. We don't need to go through address validation at the point of implementing ASAP View. Now, if you're going to do ASAP View as a transition because you want to get up and running, receiving those alarms digitally before you do CAD integration, then we would do address verification when we get to the point of doing your CAD integrated ASAP. So those are a little bit of a few of the things that to think about as you're thinking about these new options and alternatives. So the other thing, you may have, talked to other folks that have implemented ASAP, and you may have even gotten a quote at one point in time to move forward with ASAP implementation services. Some of those things have transitions, and they have transitioned. The implementation of new ECCs on ASAP has transitioned to mission critical partners. So we have a sole source agreement from the Monitoring Association that Mission Critical Partners has a dedicated team, and we call that a concierge guided deployment, to try and reduce those complexities and look for and improve the areas that kind of bottleneck the ASAP deployments. It's kind of like when you go to the hotel and you go to the concierge desk and he says, hey, I will take your bags and I will deliver them to your room. And do you need to know where to go for dinner tonight? Here's some recommendations, right? We're not going to guide you to dinner, but we are going to guide you through the ASAP implementation process. We're going to, strive to get you live in 3 to 4 months. We also, as part of this, is the quotes that you need or the proposals that you need in order to get approval to move forward with ASAP implementations. We are delivering proposals in under 3 days. We have dedicated teams and dedicated folks that work in each of these areas, and especially on implementation and support. So we have a dedicated implementation and support team that's all they do is ASAP implementations and ASAP support. And because we're able to dedicate these folks to ASAP, and that is their sole focus, these executions, these deployments are going so much smoother, and we have expert guidance 100% along the way. So once we get your purchase order or your signature to proceed, we're going to schedule a kickoff. And from kickoff through post-launch, we've been driving faster, simpler, and expertly supported deployment of ASAP. We continuously look for process improvement, continuously looking at how do we make it better? How do we make it faster? How do we take the friction out of ASAP deployments and continue to make it better for your experience and really get this into the hands of your operators and your emergency responders faster. All right, so we've done a lot of talk about the solutions, but a little bit about our partners. So ASAP has had long-term and long-standing support from alarm monitoring centers and CAD vendors alike. Right today, there's 34 monitoring centers that are part of the ASAP solution. We are continuously working with new monitoring centers and bringing them live. Of that 34, here's just a sampling of some of the ones that we work very closely with and have throughout I'll call it the lifetime of ASAP. They are, many times you might be getting, or your operators might be getting calls from an alarm company. That might not be that alarm company that's answering it. Someone from this left side of the screen might be the organization that's answering that call and reporting it to you. So we work with you to talk about who are you getting alarms from today, and ensuring that the majority of them are handled within the platform. On the right-hand side of the screen is just a small sampling of the CAD vendors that are already live with ASAP and continue to work with us to further enhance and improve the API and connecting with between the ECC and the ASAP broker. So we've been in communication with all of these vendors plus many more. If your vendor is not listed on the right-hand side of the screen, do not worry. Just work with our team to let us know who it is, and we'll talk to them. I will say that some of them that we've talked to recently that are CAD vendors that we hadn't ever had conversations before, look at our new standardized API and go, this is easy. We've got this, right? So that is that assurance that moving the standard even further is just a move in the right direction for all of your centers. All right, so things for you to think about. So CAD vendor participation. Okay, Jeff, I'm going to hit that in 30 seconds. Things to think about. So I've talked about the CAD vendors. Let's work together to look at who is your CAD vendor. Talk to them in conjunction with us or individually to make sure that they are ready to move forward and be able to support your move towards ASAP. Address data. We're going to need from you an export of your address data. That's more like address schema, right? How are you spelling out street names? Is it first, F-I-R-S-T, or is it first, one S-T? Is it Avenue, A-V-E? Is it Lane, L-A or L-N? Those are the kind of things that we're going to work through with you all to get that data and then provide that data to the monitoring centers so that we can assure that when you get an alarm to your CAD system, that alarm validates and you can immediately dispatch units to it. Budget, not that I can find a lot of money for you, but you have to start looking for, do you have budget dollars to spend on the MCP implementation services and CAD integration? If budget is a significant issue, and we should talk about this, let's definitely talk about this. Our team can work with you not only to establish your budget proposal, but also, you know, how to kind of fit it in. And lastly is allocating staff to implementation. Dedicating staff not only for pulling that address verification information, but working with your CAD vendor, training and testing phases. It's not a significant amount of staff allocation, but we do need someone to partner with our team to basically keep everything moving forward. All right. Jeff asked a question. Are there any plans to expand the service to other types of alarms, such as fire alarms and or medical alarms? The answer to that is a resounding yes. Dependent upon the ECC, some of the ECCs that are live today are already receiving fire alarms and some medical alarms. But because now we're in the AWS broker, we now can not only will continue to support those types of alarms, but we can deliver those types of alarms directly to a dedicated fire dispatch center or a dedicated EMS dispatch center. From an AVS-01 perspective, AVS-01 is looking to expand their severity levels for fire alarms and have that same, similar, I should say, severity levels for fire alarms and be able to transmit that information further. Medical alarms, definitely from a if it's a medical alarm that happens inside of a facility, we can send that information across the platform. We are working towards a mobile medical alarm solution as well. So that'll be the next exciting product launch that we'll have to be able to talk about in the future. All right, so I'm going to kind of summarize here. In summary, ASAP is the industry-leading digital alarm service. It is the digital alarm service that was built by industries for these industries, right? So we have the Monitoring Association and APCO International that have been working together since 2011 to build this service platform and be able to, you know, bring the highest level of adoption from alarm monitoring centers to the ECCs. And now with the additional options and flexibility, we're going to be able to continue to increase that adoption level to the ECCs. It was built basically to expedite the workflow, not only for the alarm monitoring center staff, but also for the emergency communication center, the dispatch center staff, right? It's all about making everyone more efficient. More efficiency means faster response and getting units to the scene faster. And one of the things I didn't talk a whole lot about early on, I talked about, the staffing overwhelm, but just think about with this expedited workflow and taking those, 2+ minutes out of the equation. Now your operators might be able to take a breath between calls, regroup before the next phone call or 911 call comes in, maybe take a break, or just go back to, handling those 911 calls, right? It really expediting this reduces the time that they're spending away from those activities, wellness activities, or additional 911 calls. And lastly, it's standards-based. It's a standards-based protocol. I can't stress that enough, that we focus on the standards to make this repeatable and more seamless and easier to deploy. There's one benefit that I kind of touched on along the way, but is not on this summary slide. In that this movement, this launch is all about delivering to you more choice, more flexibility, more faster time to value with receiving those alarms digitally. So we've really worked on reducing the technology barriers to implementing ASAP, and we are going to continue to work on reducing barriers, or I should say, maybe reducing things that cause a higher cycle time to that value. So with that continuous work process or work improvement is really what we're all about. And that's what makes me pretty excited about passionately delivering this kind of efficiency to public safety. All right. We're going to wrap up here. I want to scroll back just a minute. Okay. The first question was about ABS. Interesting concept. Would have been helpful to receive some communication as to what those levels are and mean. So, Amy, the one thing about what those different levels are, when we send out this packet, the PDF from this presentation, you should be able to see what those different levels are, how they determine what those different severity levels are, and what the response is for them. Also, I see Diane and John both posted a link and some more information about the severity levels, but take a look at those things. And if if you want further clarification on those severity of the levels, let me know. I think I've got, Jeff talked about fire alarms and medical alarms. I think we answered that. Okay, you're welcome, Amy. My pleasure. Any other questions as we wrap up? Okay, I'm going to take a pause. Also gives me a chance to grab a drink of water. All right, folks. Thank you for your time today, very much. I encourage you to, I just noticed that screen is missing something. So I encourage you to check out asap911.org. So basically, if you look at that contact us info@asap911.org,